What you see on the screen is a rare scene from a 1969 episode of the renowned Meet the Press program, produced by the American network NBC since then and continuing to this day. On the left sits the famous host, Lawrence Spivak, and on the right is his guest, the late Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh and husband of the late Queen Elizabeth II. At the time, Prince Philip stirred considerable controversy in this interview when he spoke about the suffering of the British royal family, due to their royal allowances remaining unchanged for over 15 years. According to his words, this forced the family to significantly rationalize their spending, and he warned that if the situation persisted, they might have to move into smaller homes or palaces. He even humorously complained that the Queen had to sell her personal yacht to support the family, and that he himself was considering giving up his beloved sport of polo to cut expenses. As expected, these statements drew sharp criticism from the media and some British government officials, reigniting the debate over the royal family's role. Why do they receive such expenditure, privileges, and costs that no other citizen enjoys in a country that is supposed to be democratic like Britain? Although more than 50 years have passed since that interview, this controversy in all its details still exists and resurfaces periodically. In the last 2 or 3 years, it has remained almost constant due to dramatic events placing the late Queen and the family under the spotlight. For example, in 2019, when Prince Andrew was forced to relinquish his royal duties and titles, there was a huge controversy over the fate of the £300,000 in annual allocations he had been receiving. In 2020, Prince Harry and Meghan also gave up their royal privileges. The main question raised in this debate is, why does Britain, unlike most European countries, even those that still have monarchies, continue to pay such large sums from taxpayers' money every year to maintain the welfare of the king or queen, their family, their travels, social events, the maintenance of their luxurious palaces, and the expenses of their security and other requirements? Meanwhile, other countries have either transitioned to a republic, abandoning the entire legacy of monarchy, or pay their royalty very modest allowances. As you can see, the debate is as much economic as it is political. Today, we join this ongoing debate and aim to answer some important questions. Who exactly is the royal family? What is the scale of their expenditures, and how are they funded? Is it solely through public funds, or are there other sources? What is the family's net worth, and who controls it? What is the nature of these assets? Cash, real estate, gold, or something else? Does the royal family truly generate returns for the British economy, as their supporters claim? If so, what form do these returns take, and what is their approximate value? These are just some of the important and intriguing questions we will discuss in today's episode. So watch until the end, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let's begin our episode by introducing the British royal family, a crucial clarification, as the common perception is that the term royal family refers to hundreds or even thousands of princes and princesses. In Britain, however, this is not accurate. Currently, we are talking about a very limited number of royal figures with official duties. After excluding Prince Harry, his wife Meghan, and their children, as well as Prince Andrew, since all have relinquished their royal duties, and following the recent passing of Queen Elizabeth herself, we are left with 7 main figures: the current King Charles and his wife Camilla, Prince William, the heir apparent, and his wife Kate Middleton, Princess Anne, the King's sister, and the late Queen Elizabeth's close daughter, who oversees about 300 charities, and finally, Prince Edward, the King's younger brother, nominated for the title Duke of Edinburgh, Scotland, and his wife Sophie. That is 7 royal figures. To them, we can now add Prince William's young children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, who will be the focus of attention as they are directly next in line to the throne according to royal law. These influential royals form an elite class historically known as the firm, or Monarchy plc. Over the past decades, they have controlled the economic affairs of the ruling family, which we will discuss shortly. It is clear that the late Queen Elizabeth and her heir Prince Charles had a clear objective in their later years: to reduce the royal circle and limit it to those with actual official duties in order to focus spending, control reputation, and prevent rumors of any royal receiving government funds without having official responsibilities. Now that we have introduced the royal family, let's discuss the matter of funding. How do they spend, and what are their sources of income? Many people may not know that the British royal family has an official website, edited under palace supervision, to provide a reliable source of information about the family, its history, and its expenditures. Among the information published on the site is an annual report covering the sources of the royal family's revenues. So, what are the main sources? There are three primary sources of the family's income. The sovereign grant. This is considered the most important source of funding for the monarchy's activities in Britain, in addition to the income from the Duchy of Lancaster and the Duchy of Cornwall, and the proceeds from the Royal Collection Trust, which includes the Queen's holdings of antiques, jewelry, paintings, and other valuables. Starting with the sovereign grant. What is it? In short, it is an amount of money the royal family receives from the British government annually. According to 2021 data, this grant is estimated at £86.3 million funded from government tax revenue, roughly £1.29 that every Briton pays each year to fund the family's expenses. The amount is currently divided into two main parts: a basic grant of £51.8 million and an additional grant of £34.5 million for 10 years to fund a comprehensive maintenance program for Buckingham Palace, including upgrades to electrical wiring, plumbing, heating, and infrastructure, which have not been modernized since the 1950s. The aim is to preserve the palace's safety, as it is not only a residence for the current king or former queen, but also a vast museum that receives visitors year-round and generates significant revenue for the British government. Is there anything else the government pays to the royal family besides this grant? In fact, there is a very large spending item not included in the grant: the insurance for the family, their property, their palaces, and their movements within and outside the country. This item is not officially disclosed by the government. However, the renowned Brand Finance Company, specializing in brand valuation, estimated this cost in 2017 at £104 million annually. Why does the government pay such huge sums to the royal family? The truth is that this subject has significant historical background. In 1760, during the reign of King George III, the royal palace owed a huge amount of money to the government. As a result, the king agreed to give up the revenues from palaces, real estate, and royal lands and assign their management to the government in exchange for having his debts forgiven. In addition, he was to receive an annual financial grant to cover his personal expenses and official duties, known at the time as the civil list. At the time, this was a win-win agreement for both sides. The government knew that this vast portfolio of land and property, if managed properly, would generate returns greater than the grant paid to the king. On the other hand, the king wanted to be rid of his debts, as no one likes to owe such a sum. In the same year as the agreement, a company called Crown Estate was established to manage the royal real estate portfolio for the government. The government maintained the annual grant, in addition to 3 special grants for travel, communication, and maintenance of mansions until 2012, when all these grants were consolidated into one, the sovereign grant, whose value is determined annually and cannot exceed 25% of the revenues of the Crown Estate. In 2021, the property portfolio managed by the Crown Estate was valued at around £16.5 billion, $19.2 billion, including £8 billion worth of properties in London, commercial land across the country, and a third of Britain's beaches. These properties generated operating profits of £327.8 million, with 75% of this amount going to the British government and the remaining quarter used to finance the royal family's expenses. The Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall. The second source is the monarch's own portfolio, the Duchy of Lancaster, a large portfolio of land, real estate, assets, and farms owned by the throne. valued at around £818 million. It generated revenues of £23.5 million in 2021. Most of that revenue is at the monarch's disposal to be distributed among siblings, their families, children, staff, and personal expenses. It is important to note that the royal family's control is limited to the income only, without the right to sell or dispose of the principal property and assets. In addition to the Duchy of Lancaster, the royal family controls a £1 billion portfolio of real estate and other assets known as the Duchy of Cornwall, which generated £25 million in revenue last year. Unlike the Duchy of Lancaster, the proceeds from Cornwall are a private purse at the disposal of the Prince of Wales, his family, and his staff. Under Queen Elizabeth, those proceeds went to Crown Prince Charles, his children William and Harry and their families, before Harry gave up his royal duties, as well as to pay their palace staff, fund the Prince Charles Charitable Foundation, and other expenses. With Charles's accession to the throne, that sum now goes to the new heir and Prince of Wales, William, his wife Kate, and their children. The Royal Collection. The third and final source of the royal family's expenses is the Royal Collection, 1 million pieces of antiques, jewelry, luxurious furniture, paintings, and photographs owned by the monarch, either personally or by virtue of office, and distributed among 13 inhabited or vacant royal residences in Britain. Yes, the number is exactly what you heard, 1 million pieces. These holdings include, for example, 30,000 historical and artistic paintings, 150,000 documents and papers, and more than 450,000 photographs, in addition to furnishings, ceramics, textiles, vehicles, weapons, armor, jewelry, watches, musical instruments, tableware, plants, manuscripts, books, sculptures, and more. Most of these are displayed to the public in royal palaces or museums open to visitors, including inhabited palaces such as Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and Kensington Palace, which have public wings open to visitors. These holdings are currently managed by a special body established in 1993, the Royal Collection Trust, whose function is to organize the presentation of these holdings to the public and maximize their returns. These revenues are directly under the authority of the Queen or King. In the 2021 to 2022 financial year, revenues were estimated at £10 million. Thus, this sum may be added to the sovereign grant and the earnings of the Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall to get an approximate figure for the annual returns of the British royal family, estimated at around £144.1 million. This includes official expenses, staff expenses, palace maintenance, and the personal expenses of the royals and their families. Surprisingly, despite this large annual income, none of the royal family members is classified among the world's richest, or even Britain's richest. In 2020, Forbes estimated Queen Elizabeth's total wealth, she was the richest family member, at £350 million, about $486 million, including her personal jewelry and real estate. The reason for their absence from billionaire lists is that most of the properties generating revenue for the Crown are not personally owned by family members, but rather enjoyed by virtue of their positions. Despite all this, there are now loud calls in Britain, especially after the passing of Queen Elizabeth, who enjoyed immense symbolic value, questioning why the country does not reconsider the way the royal family is treated and their huge official allowances and tax privileges, particularly since the current King Charles is much less popular than his late mother. There is a tendency to reduce the main circle of royals with official duties, following the example of royal families in Scandinavia, such as Sweden, and even Spain, who receive largely symbolic allowances. This brings us to the main point of controversy mentioned at the outset. Are the British people, as a nation, satisfied with the current situation, or are they motivated to change it? Naturally, the existence of a particular family, receiving economic privileges merely by virtue of royal lineage in a democratic country such as Britain, is controversial and resented by a significant number of people. Surprisingly, however, opinion polls indicate that support for the monarchy exceeds 80%. Many people believe that even if we ignore the symbolic aspect of the royal family and focus only on the economic side, their presence is very profitable for the British economy, and the benefits exceed, to some extent, the millions they receive from the government. How so? Proponents argue that the aforementioned crown estates, together valued at more than $28 billion, are the inherent right of the British crown and the royal family. Thus, if the government were to stop financing the family, it would have to return that property to the family to manage themselves. In that case, the family would receive much more revenue than the government currently provides. However, this point of view is highly controversial, as all feudal royal families did not acquire such enormous wealth by legitimate means that would make it their personal right. Rather, they controlled it by virtue of the power they once held. As we reach the end of our journey through the fascinating world of the British royal family, their history, finances, and the ongoing debates surrounding their role, we hope you've gained new insights and perhaps even a fresh perspective on this enduring institution. Thank you for joining us today and being part of this thoughtful discussion. If you enjoyed this episode and want to explore more intriguing stories and untold facts from around the world, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have many more captivating topics coming your way, and we'd love for you to be part of our growing community. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and see you soon in our next episode.